Speaking of Zara Sultana having 250,000 followers on TikTok, there was a Times article released 3 days ago about an MP called Dehenna Davison. And they have called her the TikTok MP, which is an interesting thing to call her. Anyway, they did this kind of puff piece for her in the Times because that's what the Times exists to do, is just exist to be the client journalism platform of the Conservative Party. The TikTok MP, she's 28, a friend of Carrie Johnson and a social media star. She's also one of the new generation of Red Wall Conservative MPs. Now she's found fame as the leader of the pork pie plot, which was apparently this Red Wall plan to oust Boris Johnson, which, I at least applaud them for their integrity. For disliking someone like Boris Johnson and not towing the party line, I will at least give her the tiniest whiff of credit for having at least some kind of modicum of decency within that regard, at the very least, right? And I can't read the rest of the article because you have to be a Times subscriber. But whatever, I digress. Either way, she's being touted as some kind of new, hip, young face of the Conservative Party, and I find it amusing. They call her the TikTok MP. I find it incredibly amusing. As when you actually go to her TikTok, she has 5 of them. None of them have more than 10k views, and she has 1,800 followers. Now, I don't know about you, but when your TikTok doesn't actually have as many followers as, for example, I don't know, some random lefty shit poster on Twitch. Actually, I've got fewer followers. I have like 10 times as many likes as her, and all of my top viewed videos. I have way more like video views than she does on TikTok, right? If you're losing out to some like incredibly underfunded idiot leftoid like Twitch streamer or whatever, because that's what I am, that seems a little bit embarrassing. It also means that I don't think you can really claim to be the TikTok MP when there are multiple MPs. Let's have a look at the person. Let's have. Shut up. Let's have a look at the MP that I mentioned earlier, Zara Sultana, 260,000 followers. I don't know about you. But an MP with 260k followers, getting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of views on their TikToks, could probably lay the claim to being the TikTok MP far more so than somebody who is got 1,800 followers on their TikTok. Yeah, it's almost like they're just being astroturfed by client journalists, rather than them actually having any kind of social media presence. So just because she's young and hip and cool and not like all of the fusty older ones doesn't mean that anybody on TikTok actually likes her. Now let's have a look at some of her TikToks as well. I mean, it feels like she's just trying to act like how a Zoomer would act. Just trying to play the part of being a TikTok influencer without being one. Clearly she's got some kind of spin doctors telling her what Zoomers like to do, and then she's doing a really poor impression of it. Let's have a look at this fucking. See, it's incredibly amusing. And also embarrassing and very, very cringe. Just like, apparently Zoomers like dancing. Although most Zoomers probably haven't heard of NSYNC. I wouldn't expect. That maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that NSYNC are just part of kind of pop music lore at this point. And so even the Zoomers are well aware of things like NSYNC. But it does feel like she's just a little bit not in tune with the younger generation at this point. And it is amusing how the whole of the replies is just people chatting shit about her because surprise to nobody, TikTok is not exactly the most hospitable place for someone as a member of the Conservative Party, at least not in the UK either. Let's have a look at some of the choice examples. This her amusingly this video of hers where she says that she is going to support trans people from a party that's actually trying to court institutions trying to demolish our rights is not only dumb. It's not only dumb of her and completely hypocritical. It's also a fucking disgrace. Like, why are you not calling out your own fucking government? Of course, because that's party loyalty is worth way more to you than actually caring about these issues that you're trying to kind of blithely have some kind of support for that you don't even really have on a substantive level. Funny that. Like, to be fair to her, a lot of the stuff that she is just posting on here isn't political, right? She's not posting overtly political content, and she's just talking about having days in the life of the MP. And I get that. I get that. I can get that in every sense of the word, right? But that doesn't stop you from, this doesn't make everybody forget the things that you do and say as part of your job, as part of your role as a member of parliament. It's this idea that people can just be, that mostly rightoids have, that you can just extricate people from their political positions and their political viewpoints, as if that's not just an accurate measure of their moral character or whether you actually want to spend a non-zero amount of time with these people. Because turns out your moral character influences the political decisions that you do and make. And I would not really hold many people who are outside of the political sphere to a high standard, because most people are products of systems, they're products of incentive structures, and they're products of their upbringing. But if you're somebody who actively takes the position of going into Parliament and setting up these laws, I am going to hold you personally accountable. I am going to hold you accountable for the things that you vote for in Parliament. I am going to hold you accountable for the things that you do and say as a public representative on a national stage. That is removed from what you would be if you were just a random member of the public, right? See what I mean? See what I mean? So it's incredibly amusing that it's so obvious that all of these kind of fusty broadsheet newspapers or whatever, all the legacy media outlets, are just essentially client journalism outlets with which to be able to do puff pieces on whichever kind of political figure that they would like to brandish at any point in time. It's so blatant. It's so blatant at this point that it's all just people who have moneyed interests wanting to perpetuate that through the political discourse, and none of these legacy media institutions actually care about the truth or care about any kind of objective media reporting anymore. It's all just an editorial slant at this point. Like, for example, you looked at the Times, who did an interview with Tony fucking Blair of all people, who had some things to say about foreign policy and economic policy, a large amount to say about that. Most things I disagree with. And he said at one point, he, like, in passing, mentioned something about Adele and the whole Adele fiasco that's happened recently. For people who don't know, Adele, when receiving an award, like a gender-neutral award, said, "I love being a woman. I wish there was an award for women," or something like that. And TERFs thought that she was getting cancelled by trans people online when she just wasn't. And so they kicked up a whole fucking spin about this. All of the media went into a frenzy, "Oh, trans people cancel Adele," and actually it was just TERFs making shit up, and the media running with it, because their editorial line isn't about what is actually true. It's not about what makes the most kind of sense with which to report to the public on a factual basis. It's just about funneling things through their editorial line to be able to sell newspapers, to be able to generate clicks, to generate conversations, to garner eyes in the attention economy. And in this Tony Blair interview, they used his random passing comment as Adele as the header of this article, because it has to fit into their moral crusade against the existence of trans people. And just the same as this, they just go like, well, clearly everybody thinks that conservative MPs aren't cool, they aren't hip. They're all a bunch of old fuckers who write laws and pass laws, also for the benefit of old fuckers. But they're deciding to take maybe like the handful of MPs who are Tory MPs who are under the age of 35, and then trying to blast their profile wide open to try and make them the future of the party or whatever. Now, I find this extra amusing. I find this extra amusing when this MP in particular has got into the news before. This was in 2020. And strange how people manage to forget this. But I digress. Labour calling it into a probe that she was pictured with far-right activists. Believe it or not, this was fraternizing with open racists and neo-Nazis. Now, let me have a look at the actual names of the people that were involved. Blah, 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 blah. Well, Holocaust deniers, no less. Doesn't say the name of this article, regardless. Let me see if I can find it on Google image search. Oh yeah, that's the one. This guy over here. He was a member of National Action. Let's have a look at this news article. It's got more to say about it. But English Defence League and Britain first. Oh, what was his name there? Mr. Andrew Foster, that's the one. Referring to Adolf Hitler, a great man, whilst wishing happy birthday. And we need more spirit of that in this town. And also saying FP slurs, which is charming. One must say. But then again, who could be surprised? Who would be surprised at Conservative MPs fraternising with the far right? I am certainly not shocked in the slightest. But it seems funny how, after what's happened here, an incredibly rich and incredibly moneyed news organisation such as The Times, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, would want to be able to rehabilitate her image moving forward as some kind of future face of the party to try and court the younger people's vote. Who in any stretch of the imagination we'd be surprised at that? I know I'm not. Jesus Christ. Would you please, Emma, tell me you have the link for that. That sounds fucking hilarious. Well, the lucky bit of all of this. If we actually have a look at the previous elections. Oh, okay. It's not usually. It's not as close as I thought it was going to be. Actually, the previous MP only won by 500 votes or whatever in 2017. They had a kind of bigger margin in the years previous to that. That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so I was gonna say maybe it was almost if she's a Red Wall MP, it's incredibly likely that she's going to lose her seat at the next election anyway. But if this is quite a big margin to overturn, although to be fair, looking at the recent polling, if it stays the same way, even the leads this big would get overturned moving forward. And I guess the Brexit Party played kind of spoiler here too, but we shall see. We shall see. Hopefully she does lose her seat, which would be incredibly funny if the Conservatives put a bunch of time and effort into trying to make her a face of the party, such and such, and then she ends up losing her seat anyway. I would find incredibly amusing. Because the other person who is who is at risk of losing their seat moving forward is Boris Johnson, replaced by Uxbridge and South Ruislip. That's the one I want. There we go. If you look here at the elections, the elections moving forward, it's only 7,000 votes. Only 5,000 votes here. He's not got a big majority. Boris Johnson doesn't. Which is amusing. Like in 2015, he had like a 11,000 vote majority, and then it's been the gap slowly being closed over time. It'd be really interesting to see that, considering the changing demographics in London over time and the way in which voter demographics within cities have changed over time as well. It would be incredibly funny. It'd be so fucking funny if he did end up losing his seat at the next election. I wouldn't bet against it. I would not bet against it, considering how unpopular he is right now as a person, how low his approval rating is. Would not be surprised in the slightest. And it would be very funny. It would be extremely funny to watch him lose his seat. Like, even in the London Economic article on Diana Davison, even in the London Economic, like an actual like leftist paper, even they were calling her like a social media star. Like, she hasn't got any followers on Instagram. Okay, right. She has 10K followers on Instagram. She's actually got She's actually got at least some social media presence somewhere. Apparently, only in this specific placement. If we compare it to like somebody else of a, let me have a look. What other potential MPs are of a similar size just died in the latest election? I mean, not the latest election, but have a look at Lloyd Russell Moyle, for example. He's only got 2K, so okay, maybe she's doing pretty well on the gram. Maybe I jumped the gun too quickly. She got married on reality TV. What the fuck? She's fucking bisexual Tory MP. Fucking hell. The state of the young people nowadays. I jest. We're very incredibly left leaning, but I'd love to debate her. It'd be very funny. Yeah. It looks like compared to a bunch of other people, it doesn't look like she's got a pretty large following on the gram at the very least. They keep moving her around. Like, she started in Hull, and then in Sedgefield, then in Bishop Auckland. It's fucked how, like, it's completely fucked how prospective MPs just get kind of dropped in, like, kind of parachuted in the constituencies where they think they'll win, rather than somewhere where they actually have ties to the local population. Like, I can imagine standing anywhere other than in Broxtowe. I couldn't imagine standing anywhere other than Broxtowe, like the actual seat that I live in, rather than just like moving around, parachuting into other random seats, because that's where. I mean, to be fair, if it was me standing for like Labour or some shit, I'm assuming they'd parachute me into somewhere I had no fucking chance of winning because I'm like an open communist or whatever. But not that said, that's if I ever did run for Labour, which I wouldn't. It would be breakthrough if I stood for anybody. Widely followed on TikTok. Even this London Economic article is widely followed. She's not widely followed on TikTok. Like, I have almost as many followers as she does. I have way more likes and way more views. What the fuck? You don't do any research. What the fuck? This is the dumbest shit, right? This is the dumbest shit that people on the right say all the fucking time. I'm tired of them saying this shit. Look here. To me, conservatism is trying to give you the best chance in life. To grow up, get a job, buy a house, have a family, and live a better life for future generations. When you try and explain that approach, it clicks a bit more, but it's difficult. Right. Let me tear apart this incredibly fucking stupid statement that she's just made. First of all, get a job. Right? To be able to actually have a job that pays well, to be able to actually have a job that is something that you feel as a vocation is going to give you satisfaction and pay you a decent wage. Conservatives are always shown to be the worst at this, because the thing that is most likely to get you a good job that pays you a decent wage, or at least to have the job pay you a decent wage and get you decent benefits, is being a member of a union, right? To be able to get that, to be able to pay fairly a fair wage, to be like Labour, the party of the minimum wage, no less. Second of all, to be able to buy a house. The only reason why the housing market is as fucked as it is right now is because of the Conservatives, because of Thatcher, because of Right to Buy selling off all our social housing, putting it at the hand of greedy fucking private landlords, creating artificial scarcity, racking up the price, then building no extra houses to be able to compensate for the population increase, thereby further increasing the price of housing, which means that the only people who can invest, the people who have all the money already, namely fucking landlords, right? So the reason why the housing market is fucked currently is because of the Tories. To be able to have a family, it's only because of the advent of neoliberalism, where people's wages have been depressed so hard and the cost of living has increased so high, that both members of the family have to be, both new partners have to be able to work to make ends meet at this point. If you want to have like the nuclear family, the fact that the wages exist have not increased in competition with productivity is the thing that has led us to have people who need to have entirely working families rather than have someone who works and brings home the bacon to be able to have someone else who takes care of the kids and is a homemaker, which is the way in which I would think that you'd have the most time to be able to raise children and have a family and leaving a better life for future generations. The reasons the Tories have the power that they have is because boomers keep voting away all of the things that made life fairer for future generations. We have worse pensions to pay for their better pensions. We have worse housing because they all bought all the housing as part of right to buy. We have worse education because these people vote for things like fucking tuition fees, which is also a way that you would be able to get yourself a better job that we now have less access to because it's far more expensive nowadays. Nonsense. This is complete nonsense. The only way that you give someone the best chance in life is by social mobility, right? Be able to move between economic strata, which is to basically tell you the social mobility or the social mobility index is a measure of which it is easy for someone who is born into a lower class to then move to a higher class, or to be able to, if someone born into poverty, to then make a success of themselves. And that is way lower in the US and the UK and these neoliberal economies than it is in places like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Switzerland, New Zealand. Places with higher social mobility are the best chances you can have to be able to get a chance to get ahead in life, no matter what economic strata that you're born into. The idea that she thinks that somehow by getting rid of all of these social programs, by getting rid of all of these safety nets, by getting rid of these redistributive policies, is going to make things fairer and give people from underprivileged backgrounds an easier chance of getting ahead in life. That's just empirically wrong. That's bollocks. That's an absolute bunch of steaming hot bollocks, right? Maybe she's just a moron. Maybe she's just a dumb cunt who just doesn't understand the political prescriptions that she makes. But unfortunately, I just think that she is a grifter who just wants easy money to be an easy MP standing for the party that is the party of the money. That's all I think as far as I'm concerned.